Hello everyone, I have a 2-page layout for you today, and I am starting with this cut above kit, but as I like to do from time to time, I like to show you how you can take a kit that's very easy to assemble and put together and just add a little bit, maybe rearrange some things and just take it to that next level, but it's still so easy. Now I have a bunch of extra photos that I want to add, so I will be adding those in a Pocket Plus at the end, and I will be using some elements from this kit to decorate those Pocket Plus pages to make sure that it matches well to the layout. Now there's all of these stickers that come with the kit, and you basically stick them on to add a little bit of dimension to that base page. So what you see on the base page is printed, and then these are all stickers, and I'm going to cut them apart just so that I can rearrange them and move them around on my layout to decide where I want to place them. I do know right off the bat that I want these thicker pink pieces to be toward the bottom. In the guide here, it's shown at the top. And to me, that feels a little bit off balance because I like to have my darker colors at the bottom of my layout. They provide a lot of visual weight being so dark and will help to ground the layout. But I want to make sure that all of the colors are evenly spaced and fit in those blank spaces provided. So that's why I want to be able to kind of move them around and make sure that it works. So in this configuration, I do feel like it works. I am going to play with it just a little bit more, but I feel like since I have so much pink down at the bottom now, that I need to add a little bit more at the top. So I will be doing that with my embellishing, but I do definitely like the look of that at the bottom. There are some white die cut pieces that are a strip that has a little ruffle on them, and it's really hard to see it in the guide, but that's what I have down at the bottom, and it's actually shown at the bottom in the guide, but it's hard to see. So if you do order this kit or have this kit, just know that that ruffle is supposed to go at the bottom, and so I did keep it there. It's just really hard to see. I've kept my photo placements fairly similar, but I do have different size photos. So on the left, I have a 4x6 and a 4x4, and the guide called for a 4x6 and a 3x4. So it's pretty similar, but it's just going to be a little bit wider. And then on the right, they have 3 photos. There's a 4x6, a 4x4, and a 3x4, and then I have 2 4x6s. So it's not going to be quite as wide, but we will add some embellishments and make it work. So I found that using a T-square ruler was very helpful in putting these pieces down because it's kind of hard to get these long 12-inch strips, well, I guess they're 11-inch strips, perfectly straight across the layout. So I just used my T-square ruler to make sure that they were straight. And of course, I'm not going to make you watch all of that, but just wanted to kind of show you a couple of them to see what I'm doing here. Now that all of those are in place, it's time for the most fun part, the embellishing. So there's this sticker here that says, "Show the world your," and I'm going to take the stick off the back with this anti-static powder pouch that's supposed to be used for embossing, but I like to take the stick off my stickers with that little pouch, and I just keep it in a little container so that the powder doesn't get everywhere. But I don't want the words showing, the "show the world your," and then there's a heart that says magic, and that's supposed to be the title. But I didn't really like that title, so that's how it's supposed to be. I didn't really like that for this particular layout, but I really love the elements. So I am still going to be using that magic heart, but I'm going to use it on that Pocket Plus insert that I'm adding. And instead, I'm just going to put this little happy sticker here, and I'm going to hide the words that are on that circle behind it. So instead of being the title, it's just like a little embellishment cluster. There are also these little die cut tags that are supposed to go here and there up above the photos, and for the most part I'm keeping them fairly similar to where they're called for in the layout, but I changed them up a little bit, and I will show you the comparison at the end of the video of how mine turned out compared to the original. And there's nothing wrong with the original. I think it's beautiful, and what I love about these kits is that they make it so easy to put together beautiful layouts. There's no thinking required. everything is pre-cut and pre-designed for you, so you can basically put together a beautiful layout in no time. Like if you were to follow this exactly to a T, these layouts take like 20-30 minutes to put together. They're super, super fast. But I like to just show you another variation. So if, maybe the layout doesn't quite work for your photos, or you just want to maybe incorporate some different elements, that you have some other ideas to use. Now, this die is an oldie but a goodie. I turn to this a lot in my stash. It is a Star Slimline die. It's long retired, but what I love is that you've got all of these little outline stars that you can see I'm going to be cutting apart, and I'm going to use those to create little clusters. And by the way, this is white glitter paper, and I think that the white glitter paper addition to this layout is just perfect. I absolutely love the contrast of the white on top of all those bright colors, and the fact that it's glittery just makes it 10 times better. So I love that there's all of those little outline pieces. So I just cut one slimline die cut, and I'm going to be able to get all of my embellishment clusters around the page that I want for the outlines. And then you get all of the stars that fall out of it. And so I'm going to use those too, even though not all of them are perfect stars. When you tuck them behind photos and things, you can't tell. It just looks like, a full star is peeking out. So I'm going to play with these a little bit and just get them all arranged on the page how I like. And then I also added a couple of stitch star dies from a single die. I believe it's still available. It's just a star that creates a stitch star die cut, and it's pretty inexpensive. I'm going to add some of those, and then I also added a few stitched hearts in that rosy color later on, and that's how I'm going to add more of that dark pink toward the top that I talked about. These photos are from a long weekend trip we took to Chicago. When we lived in Indiana, we were about 2 hours away from Chicago, which was so fun. We went there a handful of times and spent a weekend or even just did day trips. And this particular weekend, my sister-in-law was in town from San Diego. And so we did a long weekend, and we did American Girl and Lego because that's what my daughter was super into at the time. This was 2 or 3, well, must have been 3 or 4 years ago now, actually. Gosh, time flies, doesn't it? But she was super, super into American Girl, super, super into Lego. And my son, who was 6, he even loved going into American Girl and recognized all the dolls from his sister's room and had a blast in there. And so all of the colors, like the American Girl color, I thought it just worked perfectly with that bright rosy color. And see how on that first picture, the American Girl picture, the bright pink is at the top of the photo. And I like how that's kind of separated from the pink that's at the bottom of my base page. So I was paying attention to the colors and the stripes in the background and how they relate to my photos, as well as how they relate to all of the other elements on the page. So that's what I mean, like when I talk about how I make layouts of my own and to work with my photos, I don't like to create a layout and then later add my photos, because I feel like it makes such a big difference once you add your photos, because your colors in the photos add to the page and add to the feel of the layout. And if I didn't know what photos I was putting on this layout and I just created it ahead of time, then the pinks might not have been balanced out as well as I would have liked because of all of the pink that I have in the photos. Now, I do like that there's a lot of white space on this background because of all the photo colors, but I wanted to add just a little hint of ink blending behind some of the embellishments because it just was a little bit too stark for me. So I'm taking my Rosy ink pad, and I'm very lightly, I got some of the ink off on that scrap paper, and then I'm very lightly adding just a little bit of Rosy ink here behind the photos. Now, in the original layout, that pink strip that's at the bottom of my layout was up above this top green strip. So all of those strips went up higher, whereas mine are all kind of scooched down lower because of how I rearranged them. So this ink blending is just one way that I added that rosy up toward the top. And then I wanted 3 points of that ink blending, so I added some over here. In hindsight, I wish I hadn't because pink and green don't really mix. It kind of just made a brown color, but that's okay. It mostly is covered up with embellishments. And then I added just a little bit of shimmer brush splatter with the Sapphire shimmer brush. And I ended up adding some down here, and I wish that's where I would have added my third point, was kind of down at the bottom, but that's okay. I'm still happy with how everything turned out. So here's how everything turned out. I did a few things off screen. I created a title with my Cricut. It just says shopping because I have several layouts to do of this trip to Chicago. And then I added those hearts in the rosy color and a few banners at the top. And now you can see how it compares to the original, which is beautiful, but I just really love how this works with my photos. So let me bring in this Pocket Plus insert. I decided to use the 4x4 pocket insert. So my photos were mostly 3x4 and then some odd sizes. So what I did was I just added little pieces of paper to make my inserts 4x4 so they fit in the pockets. So I added some paper that's the same color as the stickers or the printing on the background, just tone on tone that I had dug out from my stash. And so right here is where I added that other heart that says magic that was supposed to be part of the title. I put that on my little journaling card and then journaled around it. And now we have the rest of the story from this trip. I will have still shots for this layout over on Instagram and Facebook. Those links are down below, as well as all the supplies. And check out the video on screen here if you want to see another kit layout transformed. Thanks for watching.